Hey everybody, how's it going today? Hope you're all doing well. It's Cyclical coming at you with yet another one of my Naruto discussion videos. Really quickly before I begin, I do need to shout out that today's topic was actually recommended to me by one of my good friends, Tyler. If you're out there, hope you're listening, hope you're doing well, buddy. Let's jump on into this one. So, right off the bat, one of the first things that people usually complain about with Naruto is actually the team balance of the Genin teams. This is due to a couple of things. The first one is that they're actually looking at it from the wrong angle. More on that in a little bit. But the second thing is that the Genin teams, especially as they're assigned in the first season of the show, are actually pretty poorly balanced. Some of the characters give the excuse that they assign specific members to each team so that they can work well as a team and provide each other the necessary support that each member needs to improve most as a ninja. However, we see that this typically isn't actually the case. Instead, each Genin team is made up of members who more or less share a lot of the same abilities. This brings me into my first major point, breaking down what's wrong with each team, and also a continuation of the thing I said earlier, that people are looking at this from kind of the wrong angle. You see, when we look at a team like Team 7, we get the idea that the focus was more on building a team of well-rounded individual ninjas, whereas Teams 8 and Team 10 have strong preferences towards things like tracking or taijutsu or whatever else you may have. Team 7 shows a pretty clear preference towards having ninja who are well-rounded overall. This is evident with ninjas like Kakashi being the leader, Sasuke being the most well-rounded ninja in his entire class, and Naruto having abilities like the Shadow Clone Jutsu to be very utility-focused in his overall kit. So, what's wrong with this approach? Well, frankly, as it may leave a team strong in one area, it leaves them entirely underprepared to deal with things outside of their own specialty range. Now, of course, if you're trying to build teams who are good at specializing in one area, there's no problem with this. The problem is that the Ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village specifically point out that they are trying to make teams who are well-rounded. So, pointing out the problems with each individual team, I'll start with Team 7. See, Team 7 is actually one of the more well-rounded teams in the idea that they are able to accomplish many different goals as a unit. Kakashi, of course, is good at basically everything, and so is Sasuke, especially in terms of Genin skill level. Naruto is able to summon many of his clones to think of outside-of-the-box solutions, and then Sakura, of course, is one of the most intelligent ninja in her entire class. Some of Team 7's deficiencies, though, are things like the fact that Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura don't get along well as a team. Of course, the show makes it obvious that they do have some pretty decent teamwork, but think about how well someone like Naruto and Shikamaru would get along with each other. On top of this, Team 7 is a primarily physically focused team. And what I mean by this is that there isn't a lot of genjutsu specialization, especially considering they have Sakura on the team who never actually learns to use genjutsu. It seems like a massive missed opportunity to not put somebody who can utilize genjutsu well on their team. Once again, Kakashi can obviously do this, but the point is that you would think they would want some more well-rounded specialization overall. Moving on to Asuma's team, Inoshikacho is actually usually praised as one of the best compromised Genin teams in the entire series. The problem with their team, though, is actually that they lack answers to a lot of their problems. Think about it. Inoshikacho is really good at holding one individual opponent in place for a long period of time, but beyond this, they actually really struggle to deal fatal damage to them, or to interrogate, or to place a group under genjutsu, or to track, or etc, etc. You see the point. And this same problem is mirrored in Kurenai's team, where she's got a whole bunch of tracking and taijutsu specialists and not a whole lot of other utility. So what I'm going to try to do today is to rebalance these teams so that all of them have a good mix between genjutsu, taijutsu, tracking ability, sensory abilities, mental capabilities to perform strategies, and lastly, and perhaps most importantly, a good team dynamic between the individual members. So, jumping into this now, we're just going to start numerically and begin with Kakashi's Team 7. Like I've already mentioned twice so far in this video, Kakashi is of course a very well-rounded shinobi. Anything that their team lacks, he's going to make up for on his own just by virtue of being good at basically everything. So the question is, who do we stick with him? Well, this is kind of answered by one thing that's very important and very evident throughout the series, that being that Kakashi is not the greatest teacher. See, Kakashi is a prodigy and never really had to struggle much to learn anything, and so he excels at teaching people who, like him, don't have to be explained to over and over again to grasp a core concept. Because of this, I'm actually going to keep one of the original 3 members of Team 7 on Kakashi's team and stick Sasuke with him. Sasuke, obviously, is a prodigy just like Kakashi is, and he was taught by Kakashi in the first place and seemed to actually gain a great deal from it. We see that Kakashi gravitates towards Sasuke for a couple of reasons, things like having the lightning change in chakra nature or the Sharingan to help them communicate with each other and actually gain a common footing when they're trying to train and learn jutsu. The latter of these two things, having the Sharingan, I feel is incredibly important for the fact that if Sasuke is not put with Kakashi and we know that he's going to awaken a Sharingan at some point, then he's just basically wasting potential in having someone who's incredibly experienced with the same jutsu to teach him along. This wouldn't be so big a deal if it weren't for the fact that the Sharingan, due to the nature of the Uchiha clan being extinct, is now an incredibly rare jutsu, and having somebody to teach Sasuke with it specifically is going to be incredibly important for the team. But having put Sasuke on this team already leaves us with a bit of an issue. See, Sasuke's a lone wolf type, and he doesn't like people who are going to slow him down. So obviously we need to put on somebody on the team who's not going to annoy him and who is not so far below him that they can't possibly keep up with his immense talent. This brings me to the second one of my choices for Kakashi's Team 7, Kiba Inuzuka. See, the thing with Kiba is that just like Kakashi and Sasuke, he's another close-range type of fighter. He's also fairly skilled in taijutsu. We see this evident in the fact that he's able to use the beast mimicry along with his food pills to make an absolute joke out of Naruto. I'll take a moment to remind everybody that Mizuki himself claims that Naruto's scores in taijutsu and things like shuriken jutsu and the like are actually well above the standard that he needs to graduate, while trying to convince Iruka to let Naruto pass in the first place. How he interacts with Sasuke and Kakashi then is pretty evident. See, Kakashi and Sasuke both have skills in both close and medium range combat. This means that while mixing it up with an opponent, both Sasuke and Kakashi can actually take a step back to let Kiba do his thing while they prepare to use some of their more medium range jutsu. This of course buys more time for Kiba as they launch in with sideways assaults and pincher attacks to grant him more of an opportunity to continue a straightforward barrage of taijutsu moves. Pairing this with things like his smoke bomb tendencies and his dynamic markings just means that Kiba is going to have all the more opportunity to wail on his opponents thanks to the support of Sasuke and Kakashi. Kiba, of course, also has the ability to use his nose to track people, where if Kakashi can't do the same thing for some reason, they do still have some sort of sensory/tracking capabilities. This actually can pan out and be a double-sided benefit for the team in the fact that both Kakashi and Kiba have strong senses of smell, since one of them could each take a far extreme of a perimeter that they're trying to survey and monitor smells coming from either side. Then lastly, I need to talk about Kiba's personality here, and to say that he is a hothead is an understatement. Where this actually works well for the team is that this means he's going to force himself to compete with Sasuke, somebody he already knows is a strong contender in a matchup between the two of them. This means that Kiba is going to basically force a rivalry between himself and Sasuke and push the two of them to their absolute limits to compete with each other. But you've probably noticed there is a severe deficiency between our Genin members of the team here. With Kakashi and Sasuke both being mid to close range fighters, and with Kiba being exclusively a close range combatant, this leaves a huge hole in their ability to cast Genjutsu and to make up for long range combat. So, how are we going to make up for this? Well, that's where the third team member of this comes in, and I have put Ino Yamanaka here. See, Ino is actually not the most competent close-range fighter, nor is she a sensory ninja, nor is she particularly skilled with genjutsu. What she does have, however, is one of the more unique and interesting kinjutsu that we see in the entire series, that being the mind transfer jutsu. See, while it takes a degree of accuracy to hit and restrain the target with it, if Ino is able to hit somebody with the mind transfer jutsu, that means that they'll be completely immobilized, giving Kiba, Sasuke, and Kakashi a perfect opportunity to go to town on one opponent at a time. Ino can quickly switch back after the time that she's infected somebody with her mind transfer, giving just enough of a pause in their movements for the rest of the team to go to work. Essentially what I'm going for here is a situation in which one long-range fighter can buy a severe opportunity for two close mid-range fighters and one close-range fighter to absolutely annihilate their opponents before any of them get a chance to respond. What this team lacks in having a strong long-range defensive, I think, is made up for in the intermediate range capabilities of both Kakashi and Sasuke, and is more than counteracted by their severely strong close-range capabilities. Overall, I would say that this team does lack that long-range defensive like I just mentioned, and also has a slight deficiency in their sensory capabilities, but given that they've got two people with strong noses, Sasuke and Kakashi who can both see chakra with their Sharingan, and Ino who actually has some medical capabilities later in the series and the ability to immobilize people with the mind transfer and mind destruction jutsus, I think we've got a pretty solid team on our hands here. The only real detriment that I can see going on is actually a clash of personalities between Ino and Sasuke. Ino is pretty much completely obsessed with the guy, and Sasuke couldn't care less, but I think this is actually not as big an issue as some might make it out to be, given the fact that Ino seems to compose herself better than Sakura does around Sasuke, and Sakura and Sasuke were still able to work cohesively as a unit anyway. Moving on to Team 8, this is Kurenai's team, and who better to complement a genjutsu specialist than somebody with a great proclivity towards the skill, Sakura Haruno. See, it's pointed out pretty early on in the series, during the Genin exams in fact, that Sakura, due to her immense talent for chakra control, actually should be quite capable of using genjutsu. We see this hinted at again during the Chunin exams when she breaks Kabuto's genjutsu from herself, and never again in the series. This is really unfortunate, first of all because genjutsu is severely underutilized as a whole, but more so because we never get to see this avenue explored with Sakura's character. Instead, she later goes on to study under Tsunade and then learn to become basically irrelevant to the rest of the story. Why I'm placing her with Kurenai is because of this hinted talent at genjutsu. See, Kurenai herself is a genjutsu specialist as well, and so if she's able to take Sakura under her wing, then she has a great opportunity to actually learn one of her strong talents. This would also leave us with a team who's really good at immobilizing their opponents, either individually or groups of people if they both are capable of casting wide area of effect type genjutsu. I shouldn't really need to explain how strong this can be on its own in terms of taking people out of a fight or using genjutsu as a means of an infiltration tactic to sneak into an area. Where this obviously leaves us with a deficiency is in their close range and long range combat skills. Well, who better to bridge the gap in close range combat than Choji Akamichi? See, Choji isn't a particularly fast fighter, nor is he particularly clever. However, Choji does have one of the strongest individual striking forces in the entirety of the Rookie 9 Genin lineup. What this means for how he'll pair with Kurenai and Sakura is that he gets to take an easy ride on the backseat until Sakura and Kurenai have immobilized their opponents, and then Choji can absolutely obliterate them with a strong, concentrated taijutsu assault. We see with his things like Human Boulder and Partial Expansion Jutsu that he's able to crush rocks and break down walls pretty easily, which means that anybody's body who gets in the way is probably going to have its bones broken, if not worse. So in pairing him with two people who are really skilled at immobilizing and confusing people to make an easier target for him, Choji has an absolute heyday on the team with both Sakura and Kurenai. Of course, leaving these three together still leaves us with an incredible deficiency in long-range capabilities and sensory skills, and so who better to make up for the both of these two things together than Shino Aburame. Shino, as we know, actually has a great deal of sensory capabilities through communications with his insects. Not only can he handle long-range surveillance with ease and with great efficiency because he can spread his insects out to cover a large area and report back to him on what they see, but he also has the long range covered in the fact that he can create large, bodies of insects to just sneak up behind his opponents or come between the group and their opponents as somewhat of a shield. Given the fact that Shino's insects are actually fairly versatile on their own, being useful at close range and long range, and covering their sensory capabilities, I think that Team 8 is pretty squarely cleaned up now. If I had to list a detriment to this lineup, I think the only real thing is that Choji is not a very confident fighter. However, Kurenai should be relatively encouraging. She had Hinata on her team originally after all, and so if she can encourage Hinata, she should be able to encourage Choji to at least some extent. Also, Choji should be encouraged naturally by the fact that his abilities are actually given an absolute chance to shine here due to the fact that he'll be easily able to actually start hitting people with his slow attacks. This leaves only Shino as the loose end on the personality spectrum, but given that he's actually pretty quiet and a blank slate, I think he's the kind of guy that can fit in with basically any group of people, and while he may not be the popular one per se, it's not like anybody's going to wind up having a grudge with him anyway, so I think we can pretty safely move on to our final team, Team 10. Now, any of you who have been paying close attention will actually already know who I've got on this team, but we'll start obviously with Asuma as the instructor. Following Asuma, we keep him with one of his original students, Shikamaru. See, Shikamaru and Asuma are shown to have a great relationship throughout the series, and Asuma also picks up on some of the more nuanced elements of Shikamaru's character. See, Asuma was the one to figure out that Shikamaru was a genius after all, and he also instructs him on ways to do things in a more responsible manner. Things like his protect the king speech and all of that. I'll be completely honest, there's not a lot I've got going on between Shikamaru and Asuma's own combat/ninjutsu abilities. Of course, Shikamaru can restrain people with shadow possession to let the close range specialist Asuma close in and finish them off, but beyond that they don't have a whole lot going on other than that they have a great dynamic between the two of them. So, we need to start filling in some obvious holes that we have in the team comp, and who better to fill holes than someone who can replicate themselves endlessly, Naruto Uzumaki. See, this one was one of the people who got me excited about doing this topic. Naruto and Shikamaru are a fantastic pairing for each other, and here's why. Not only were they shown to be friends, in fact, Shikamaru is one of the only people who was willing to befriend Naruto in the academy days, but Naruto also has perhaps the best ability to pair with Shikamaru's shadow possession and his insane intellect. With Naruto's shadow clones, he can not only use them as a booster for the extended shadow reach of Shikamaru's shadow possession and providing more bodies for the shadow to go through, but also Shikamaru thrives in having the ability to tell other people what to do for his own strategies to work. What better way to pad this out than providing more bodies and more people to listen to his instructions? Not only this, but Naruto's use of the Shadow Clone Jutsu is a great way to help cover for some of Shikamaru's weaknesses, namely those being that he's pretty defenseless while he's sat there meditating with his eyes closed or while he's preoccupied with restraining somebody in the Shadow Possession Jutsu. If Naruto can just crank out about 100 clones, then all of these blind spots and all of these areas of weakness are completely covered. Not only this, but Naruto's shadow clones can cover a wide range of area as well, meaning that Shikamaru's medium to close range fighting style isn't really a drawback here. Rather, it just becomes a little bit of an obstacle if they're fighting somebody who's good at playing keep away. I could probably go on and on about different ways that Naruto and Shikamaru's interactions would be good for each other, but I'm actually just going to go ahead and skip on to our third person in this team, Hinata Hyuga. you might find it a little bit odd that I've put so many people on one team that don't really have any long-range capabilities, and there's two reasons for that. First of all is that, well, we kind of just ran out. There aren't that many people in the Rookie 9 and their instructors who have a good mix of long-range capabilities. However, Hinata does have something that the rest of the team doesn't, and that's a long-range sensory technique. While Shino can spread out over a long area with his bugs and get quick and reliable information that way, there's no competing with Hinata's ability to use the Byakugan to survey a large area all at once. She can see up to several kilometers in a given direction and within a few hundred meters of herself in just the general overall 360-degree sense. She's also really good at close quarters combat. I mean, she did lose to Neji, but she was keeping up with him to some extent, and especially for a team of rookie Genin, she's no one to scoff at in terms of her hand-to-hand skill, which is only really amplified by her ability to use the gentle fist technique to shut down people's interior organs. If you just provide a stationary target like Shikamaru can do with his Shadow Possession Jutsu, then Hinata would be absolutely free to just go up and shut down whoever they've got trapped in a bind. This only leaves me with the personality characteristics of the team to go over, and while I've already touched on how Shikamaru interacts with both Asuma and Naruto, I need to inform how Naruto and Asuma interact, how Asuma and Hinata interact, and how Naruto and Hinata interact with each other. Starting with Naruto and Asuma, we've actually got a very interesting thing going on in the fact that Asuma is shown to be a very encouraging sensei. We see him multiple times attempting to cheer up Choji, one of the more easily discouraged members of the Rookie 9. How he would interact with Naruto then is also pretty straightforward in that he would likewise be able to look into the sensibilities of someone like Naruto and give him encouraging speech. Not that Naruto needs a lot of this, but it would certainly be a great help for him to not get discouraged early on in the series. I'll stick with Asuma's interactions with the rest of his team for a moment and talk about Hinata, which is actually one of the more important reasons that I've placed her on this team. See, Hinata did well with Kurenai as an instructor, but Asuma being able to encourage somebody as self-doubting as Choji leaves no doubt in my own mind that he would be a great proctor for Hinata in being able to encourage her through her own shyness. On top of this, we get to the interactions between Naruto and Hinata, where Hinata's crush on Naruto actually becomes a huge help. See, Naruto thrives when people are actually nice to him. It helps him form those bonds of friendship that we see him fight and overcome his own personal limits to defend. Mirroring this for Hinata, we see that Naruto is one of the few people who encourages her to actually try her absolute hardest. Given her fight with Neji in the Chunin exams and various other times through filler arcs and other interactions we see with them on screen, Hinata really only gets encouragement from positive talk from her sensei and from people like Naruto being around. If all of these people are around each other on the same team and in such a consistent basis as they would be working together, then I see no other outcome than the four of them working together to become one of the strongest teamwork-focused teams in the entire army of the Hidden Leaf Village. I'm just going to leave it there for today. I don't really have an outro for this one, but I would love to hear what you guys think. Did I overlook something? Have I made a team that's even more unbalanced somehow than the original three teams were? Let me know in the comments below and we can discuss down there. Otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed this little thought experiment and I'll hope to see you in my next video. Until then, y'all stay safe, have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.